All right, PJ, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Well, let's get right to it. I do want to understand child custody. So custody decisions, is the parent gender one of the factors that's considered?
In the law, in both South Carolina and Georgia, the judge is not to consider gender when making a custody decision. So what the court is looking at is what's in the best interest of the child, regardless of whether it's the father or the mother. Now, do people often feel like the court favors the moms over the dads? They do. But oftentimes it's because the mom has been the primary caretaker of the child. But that's really what the court is supposed to be looking at, not mom or dad or female or male.
Yeah. So custody arrangement and issues on Mother's Day, is it more prevalent with women or men?
It depends. You know, it really is based on the co-parenting relationship of the two parties. Because in both states, Georgia and South Carolina, there are parenting plans that the judges have that are pretty standard. And what they say is, in one state, it actually says that on Mother's Day weekend, mom always gets that weekend, and on Father's Day weekend, dad gets that weekend, which is probably the way it should be. In one of the other states, I believe it's Georgia, the actual day, on Mother's Day, mom gets that entire day, and on Father's Day, dad gets that entire day. But that's if you have a court order in place. If you get to get a parenting plan in place, that's when it gets confusing, and that's when the parents really have to work together, or the attorneys have to get involved to make sure that the order addresses that day.
And what are some of those legal considerations or factors should parents be looking at when it comes to negotiating those agreements?
Well, you want to make sure when you're in that phase of the divorce or custody dispute that whatever order you have in place, if it's not a final order and if you don't have a full parenting plan worked out, if Mother's Day and Father's Day are coming up, you want to make sure that your attorney puts that in your order that, you know, on Mother's Day, you're going to get your child, or for that entire weekend, or if it's Father's Day, then dad is going to have the child on that day.
Oh, okay, good deal. So how can parents work together to make sure it's a positive experience for the child?
Well, first of all, parents should never involve the children in disputes, especially involving the litigation, because children pick up on those things, even if it's tension and certainly an argument that may occur in front of them. So if the parents are having a dispute about the day or the weekend, then they need to do that with each other, not in earshot of the children, not to where the children see that. And try and work those things out amongst themselves. And they also need to plan ahead. So if you know a weekend's coming up or a holiday's coming up that's really important to you, you need to make sure and start talking about that ahead of time. And then if it's not working out with talking it through with your, ex or soon-to-be ex, then you need to reach out to your attorney so that they can address it.
Well, how can the attorney address it?
So if, there's a dispute in place, oftentimes, in both states, our judges are pretty good about letting us have a phone conference about it, or actually setting a hearing if we have to file a motion. I mean, there have been cases, I can think of one in particular, where a parent, it was supposed to be, it was actually Father's Day, and the mom was refusing to let the dad have the child for Father's Day.
Any particular reason why?
They were not very good co-parents,
okay.
and there was a little bit of alienation involved. And so I had to go, to the court and to the other attorney and say, listen, it's Father's Day. There's no safety concerns in place. I mean, that's a different issue. No drugs involved. Dad was a good dad, and mom just didn't want to let him have his Father's Day. And so the court addressed it, and he got to have his children on Father's Day.
Well, good. So everything worked out. Was the woman upset about that?
Yes, she was. Very. And she was not a very good co-parent.
Yeah.
And that's how, in high conflict divorces or, custody battles, because not everybody's married, sometimes it's just a legitimation and custody dispute. Oftentimes, you've got parents that just don't want to give any time. And so you got to fight for every bit of time. And that's where a lot of times the attorney has to get involved, and you have to be good at arguing those issues and making sure that your client gets the time they deserve.
So how can they prioritize the well-being and happiness of the child? Because I'm pretty sure they'll be kind of torn because their parents are breaking up or whatever the situation may be.
So when parents are thinking about these things, and thinking about holidays and spending time with their children, the first thing in their head needs to be not what's good for them and what's best for them, but what's best for my child. Maybe it's your weekend, but mom has something planned that particular weekend, and your child's really going to enjoy that.
Yeah.
Are you going to take that away just to have your weekend? That's where you need to think, it's not about me, it's about my kids.
Good deal. Anything else I should have asked you on this?
I think the hardest part in divorce cases is, I call it the limbo period. Mm-hmm. So when people, are thinking about getting divorced, or maybe they've already separated, they've retained an attorney, but they haven't gotten to court and they haven't gotten an order in place. Mm-hmm. That's where I call it the limbo period, because both of them are parents usually. Right. They both have legal access and rights to the child. And so, that's where you're really going to have to work with each other on, a special day like Mother's Day, because Mother's Day could fall into that time period.
So what about the child's birthday? Would that be something to factor into as well?
Right. I just recently had a birthday dispute, if you will.
Yeah.
And both parents wanted to be with a child on their birthday, but they're not great co-parents. Mm-hmm. And so...
well, maybe you can split the baby in half?
Correct.
Okay.
But a lot of times I tell my clients on birthdays, I don't, if my birthday's not on a weekend, I'm probably not celebrating until the weekend.
Oh, okay.
And so what's great for kids that have divorced parents is you can have 2 birthday parties.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You may have one on your birthday, and then you may have another one on another day. But, 2 times the gifts, 2 times the fun.
It's a win-win.
It is. And for some children, the parents can come together and throw a birthday party together. And I think the most important thing is that the children see that their parents may not be together anymore, but they still love their children.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, good deal. If folks want to get some advice from you, a consultation or whatever the situation may be, how can they find you?
They can reach out to me at 706-821-2222 and set up a consultation. And I've got a website, www.csralawyer.com.
All right, sounds good. PJ, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
No problem. And we'll be right back.